Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Adam. This is Vancity Audi, and this is the finale. This is the showdown, part 3 to my fuel comparison. In today's video, we are getting you 2 samples of Chevron 94 and 2 other samples of Shell 91. We are going to be doing a direct comparison with my still stock B8 S4. In the gas tank right now is Chevron 94, no blend. I've been running it on a few days of Chevron 94 straight up. Once we have done a few runs and we make sure they're clean runs, we get a power rating, we're then going to completely drain that tank and throw in another batch of Chevron 94 from a different gas station. So in total, we'll have tested 3 different Chevron 94s from 3 different gas stations. Once we're done that, we're going back to Shell, and this time 2 different Shell stations. So in total, we'll have tested 4 different Shell stations and their 91 octane fuel. We want to make sure that these results are as accurate as we can possibly get them. We weren't sure, to be completely honest. 40 horsepower difference? Like, could that be real? Could we have made a mistake? We're only human. We may have. So this is our way of proving to you all through our due diligence here at Racing Greed with the guys that take care of me, making sure that all of this is done as best as we can possibly do for all of you to see. Is Chevron 94 better? Or is Shell 91? Today, we're gonna find out. Here are the results of the first pull using our first batch of Chevron 94, and who would have thunk it? We made more power this time around. We attribute that to it being pretty damn cold out today, but 288 wheel, 277 for the torque, and there's the graph. Now we're tossing in the second batch of Chevron 94, and we'll run it again.
Chevron 94, second gas station. Here is the data log. We see a peak air temp of 40.5 degrees Celsius, which puts it perfectly in line with all the testing that we did in part 1 and part 2. Here is the ignition correction found in all 6 cylinders. Starts out at 3,000 RPM at 2.25 in cylinder 2. It gets worse throughout the pull, and we see a max pull of timing at 6,500 RPM with -6 in cylinder 2, -6 in cylinder 6. But what I see here is there's no correction in cylinder 3 and 4, and I believe that is a better result than we saw in the first part where Chevron 94 didn't perform quite as good. At 6896 or red line, we are seeing 5.75 out of cylinder 2, 5.5 out of cylinder 6, 2.5 out of cylinder 5, and 2.25 out of cylinder 1 for the Chevron 94 out of the second gas station.
We've now completed the second run on Chevron 94, and we lost a bit of power, but gained a bit of torque. Down to 281 from 288 and up to 280 from 277. There are the graphs. What we see here are these lines are almost identical until you get up top, and that's where you get the separation. Probably the ECU adapting down or up, but those were the cleanest runs that we had. Chevron 94, and as you can see, making almost identical power than the first time we brought the car out, except for the first time, not too sure why. But that's why we're doing this video, to show you guys multiple runs using Chevron 94.
Third gas station, Chevron 94, intake air temp. We see a peak of 39.75 degrees. As for the cylinder corrections, I anticipate they're going to be slightly worse than the previous tank. Yeah, it's actually quite a bit worse. So at 2,500 RPM, 2,300 RPM, we're seeing earlier correction in 3 cylinders, 2.25, 2, and 2. And this log looks a lot more similar to the part 1 testing of Chevron 94, and we see the worst corrections at 6,200 RPM. Cylinder 2 is seeing 6.25 degrees with a minimum of 0.75 out of cylinder 1, and it gets a bit better by the end of the run where we are near red line, where we are seeing -4 out of cylinder 5, -4.5 out of cylinder 2, with the least amount of correction of -2 degrees in cylinder 4 at 6,800 RPM on this third gas station for Chevron 94.
We've knocked the Chevron 94 out. Time for the Shell 91. 2 new batches of Shell 91 from 2 different gas stations as the first time, both from heavy traffic areas. I forgot to share with you guys an unfair advantage of dynoing the car today compared to the previous time I was out. I got an extra 5 horsepower on this baby for my integrated engineering sticker. Totally forgot. Just for you guys, the things I do. I had this car tuned already on integrated engineering software up to stage 1. Car felt like $1 million, and then I thought, let's do our due diligence. Let's go above and beyond for the public, get the car back to stock, and film more Chevron and more Shell to make sure our results were accurate the first time. We have filled up the car with Shell 91. This is the first batch of Shell that I've brought. And if you guys watch part 2 of this video, you'll know that I mentioned while I was reviewing the logs that we heard audible ping. It sounded horrifically bad. Sadly, during that run, the first time I was here, I didn't have a camera set up close, so I'm setting up a GoPro really close to the engine bay. I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does happen again and we can hear the horrible pinging sound that it made the first time, I'm hoping you guys hear it this time around. Let's cross our fingers though it doesn't. Now, for those of you that follow the channel and have subscribed, you've seen enough of me to know that I'm not a guy that needs to be right. But damn, does it ever feel good. We were absolutely bang on 246 wheel horsepower, 263 foot-pounds of torque out of Shell 91 compared to 281 and 280 out of the lower runs from the Chevron. Look at those power figures. You are not making even remotely close to as much power on this Shell 91 as you were out of our second batch of Chevron 94. Time to drain the tank and give Shell 91 its last and final chance.
Here's the data log for Shell 91 from the third gas station. We see a peak intake air temp of 39 degrees Celsius at red line, and now time for the horrific, terrible, just disgusting timing corrections that we see on this fuel. At 2100 RPM, we're seeing 2.5 degrees from cylinder 1 and 4 degrees from cylinder 2, and it just, God, this fuel is bad. We get up to minus 8.75 degrees correction out of cylinder 2, 6.5 degrees out of cylinder 5, with the least amount of timing being pulled of 3.25 degrees from cylinder 4. That's at 6,000 RPM. It gets a bit better closer to red line, but at red line, we're still pulling 7 degrees out of cylinder 2 and a minimum of 3 degrees out of cylinder 1 out of this Shell 91 from the third gas station.
Second batch of Shell 91. To all of you Shell loyalists, my heart goes out to you guys. I'm sorry to do this to you, but you can't deny the facts. We made even less power on batch number 2, 243 wheel, 264 for the torque, compared to the first of 246 and 263. There are the graphs for you. Again, a disappointing day for Shell.
Time for the final data log of Shell 91. This is from the fourth gas station. We see a peak intake air temp of 40.5 degrees Celsius. And thank the heavens, this is the last time I'm ever going to have to run this crap ass fuel in my B8S4. As early as 2200 RPM, we're seeing corrections out of 5 of the 6 cylinders. It just gets nasty up top, and we are seeing 8.25 out of cylinder 2, 7.25 degrees out of cylinder 1 and 5, with a minimum of 2.25 degrees out of cylinder 4. And like most of the other polls up near red line, it does get better. It's still terrible, but it is a bit better at 5.5 degrees out of cylinder 2 and 5, with a minimum of 1 degree out of cylinder 4. I am so thankful I never have to run this fuel in my car ever again.
That wraps it up here at Racing Greed for part 3, the finale of my 3 videos on my massive fuel comparison with fuels across British Columbia, Canada. Today we finalized and we know for certain now, Shell 91 is an inferior fuel compared to Chevron 94. There is no doubt anymore. To all of you Shell loyalists, damn, I feel for you. I'll feel for you again, but it's time to switch over. To everybody that is a performance car enthusiast, I really hope this summarizes it for you. You know the grades of fuel available in BC and what is better and what is worse. Get off of that Shell 91, get onto the Chevron 94, or even better, start blending with a little bit of ethanol like I do. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned to another 5 to 6 months from now when I'll be back here at Racing Greed, and we'll be testing the summer blends of all of these fuels. We're filming this video in November 2020. All of these fuels are the winter blends. So then we're gonna be able to do a brand new comparison with all the same fuels, maybe a couple new ones. We'll see what you guys have to say, and I'll get you the results of those fuels then. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Until next time, take care.